Hello and welcome to another episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. My name is Mark Worrall. I'm joined by Mr. Ian Macbeth on Pancake Day. How are you, mate?
I'm four pancakes in.
I am two in, and my 10-year-old son took great joy in making me one just before we jumped in
What
here.
are you? Are you like American, like fat, fluffy little ones, or are you kind of a skinny, wide, crispy one?
So I think Pancake Day for me is all about the skinny, wide ones that I wouldn't normally have. Sometimes we'll do like healthy, like American style sort of protein pancakes, like at the
Healthy because
weekend.
they've got protein in them, yeah?
That's the only reason, yeah, yeah. No, not made with flour. But today is all about the wide ones because then you can flip them, and that's what it's all about in our house. Leo dropped his first pancake this evening, which I missed because we've been out on the road. But yeah, very enjoyable day. The kids absolutely love it.
What's your go-to in the flavour?
This evening was sugar and lemon. I don't think you can beat it. It's classic. Bit boring maybe, but
Yeah, I'm not a big sugary fan. I'm controversial. I have crunchy peanut butter with Nutella.
what?
Yeah.
Wow, what a combo.
It's the best, honestly. You won't regret it. Next year, let me know how you get on. It's
I know I'm going back inside after this for a second helping, if I'm
There
being
you
honest.
go. Get the crunchy peanut butter out, healthy one, obviously, and then Nutella,
Healthy why?
because it's got the Earth like logo on it or something like
It's got no palm oil in it. Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's I'm four in for those. We had some in the office as well, actually. But no, good day. I'm cooked. I mean, we're obviously recording this late on Tuesday night, and it just feels like I can't believe we're in March, to be honest, bud. Like,
Hmm.
where is this year
Where
flown
did
by?
February go?
Sorry.
Where did February go?
What happened to it? It was a phenomenal month as well. I think that was part of the reason. It was for me, I had a lot of training going on. I've got my first race of the year in exactly a month tomorrow, or the point of this episode going out a month today.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of miles to run, and then it was just a really busy month. We did
Mm.
233% of last year's turnover. So like over double,
Nice.
crazy numbers, which is great. I think most agents took bigger pipelines into this year.
Mm.
And obviously people are trying to just get that stamp duty kind of ticked off.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really good month in Feb, and I feel a bit shattered for the running and all of the new stuff. Got a couple of new agents coming on as well, which is good. So been busy the last 2 weeks, kind of getting those rocking and rolling. So yeah, good from that side of things. How's it going with the move? You are in one bare room right now.
Yeah, and I also showed you the surroundings of my situation at the moment. I'm outside at the moment in what is going to be our home office, but at the moment it's a bit of a store. So there is boxes just surrounding me, most of them empty now. The move's gone really well. I was at a mastermind today and we were talking about it a little bit, and it's been a real good education process for me in terms of the emotions involved. And I think sometimes when you do this job day in, day out, you can get a little bit cold to the emotional side of it and why people make decisions that they make when they're going through the process. I probably understand that better now than I did 6 months ago. So it's been really good just to because I've done it before, but it's really good to refresh the memory on that. And we are, yeah, nice and settled, made a good decision. It feels like I have a smile on my face every time I wake up in the morning. So that's
Nice.
pretty awesome. And then from a work perspective, one of my big things talking to Royston, our business coach, was to try and not get too distracted by the move so that it derailed sort of February. It didn't. I did quite a good February. Not outstanding. Could have been better, certainly. But we needed to pull back on completions from January, which we managed to do. Um, we've not had too many people having conversations with us yet about stamp duty and getting panicked about that. But I imagine that's probably not a million miles away at the moment. But the numbers, the underlying numbers, which we're going to talk about in the market, are really good. But one of the things that we did want to talk about today, we're recording this a little bit unusual time for us, not that it makes any difference to the listeners, but we've been pulled a little bit from pillar to post in terms of organization and because of masterminds and one thing and another. Today is why we're recording a little bit late, so I wanted to just talk about organization, start of a new month, making sure that agents are not running around and letting the tail wag the dog in terms of diary management, because I think we are entering the time of year. I don't know whether you've seen it with your agents, but our viewing numbers have picked up. Um, and there is a lot of work now to sell a house compared to, the market that we've just been through in terms of viewings and having to show people who aren't on the market and one thing and another. So I think the diary management now, what I'm seeing in our business, is probably more important than it has been, for quite some time, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things, isn't it, that hinders the communication. When we get our diary management wrong, then the output for the client is the communication. And I
Mm,
think that's why communication in agency is always that number one complaint. I think it's not because we're bad at communicating. If anything, I think estate agents are normally pretty good at communicating.
mm,
But the problem is they're so disorganized that it means their communication is weak because they're not in the right place to be able to speak, or they're busy doing an appointment, so they can't return the call. And then you get back to the office and you've got to do two calls, but you need to do 22 calls, and then the lights are off.
yeah,
And I think it's a big part of the reason to why that happens, probably. I mean, we were laughing about the subject on WhatsApp because it has been a difficult week this week, be it that it's only the start. But I think what I found this week is I opened up my diary and had a look on Sunday, and I was like, right, I'm meant to be in Leicester all day on Tuesday. I've got a new agent coming in for social media onboarding on Wednesday. So that's my whole diary gone Wednesday. The Women in Agency conference on Thursday. So I'm going to be in London all day for that. And then we've got our group meet on Friday. And I was like, that's just not going to, that's not possible for me to do. So I cancelled the Leicester meet, and I cancelled and didn't cancel. I gave my ticket to someone else for the Women in Agency conference because you have to prioritize. And for
yeah,
me this week, I couldn't do those four things, but I can do two of them. So what do I say no to? Well, I gave a member of staff my ticket to the Women Agency conference, which she was delighted about, and she's
yeah,
been brilliant this year. So I thought it's nice for her to go. I went last year. Mike's still going as well, so there's one of us there. And then I can't change the onboarding of the agent because he's launching next Friday, so that's a vital one. And the avocado partner group meet is me. They're coming
mm,
for
yeah.
the day. I have to organise that, so I had to cancel the Leicester one. So sometimes you just got to be able to go no to things, haven't you? Really?
Well, that is exactly it, isn't it? And that's the challenge I think a lot of estate agents have in our role, which is a sales role. People feel that they have to please, and saying no is very difficult. And that might be saying no in your position. It might be saying no to, effectively business meetings. In my position is sort of maybe more hands on the sales, or any, sales neg or valuer here. It might be saying no to business that won't be good for the business, and that is really hard to do. I'm reading a book called The Essentialist at the moment, and it's all about actually prioritizing what is really important to you, not just in work, but in life as well. And I think that is a really hard thing to do. We're out of kilter here, so we're not saying that we've got this perfect, but why is it you think a lot of agents struggle to say no in terms of diary management? That classic, can I view this property now? We're only in the area today. Are you free? That Why do agents find it so hard, do you think, to say no to that request?
I think it's the FOMO, isn't it? It's the fear of missing out. It's because we've spoke about it before, but it's such a high volume level of business, and because
Mm,
like statistically last year, 53% of listings exchanged. So you kind of like almost you need two to guarantee one.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you have to work at volume because you think, well, if I don't do that one, what if that was the one that would sell that house?
yeah.
And I had one of the avocado partners message me this afternoon. He's like, look, Ian, I'm so sorry to do this, but I've got three take-ons I have to get in this week, three new listings. The only diary space I've got is Friday. I can't make the group meet. And it's like, well, it's 15 grand's worth of commission to that guy. You know,
Yeah.
he's going to miss out on a bit of training, but he has to put that in his diary. But then in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, this has been in the diary for months. But what can you do?
Mm.
In that situation as an
Yeah.
agent, you have to go where the business is. And he might learn 15 grand's worth of value on Friday, but the 15 grand is
Mm.
sat right there now for him to take. So you got to take it, haven't you, in that situation?
Yeah, and I think that finding the time to instruct a property is probably that's probably right up there with, one of the most important things and potentially urgent things, depending on your process and depending on clients' eagerness to move in their situation. That's one of the most important things. I suppose the things that I'm talking about that agents don't say no to enough is um, instructions that you either don't want
Mm,
or aren't at the fee or the price that are right for you and your business. I think that's really hard to say no. Somebody rings, and sometimes when you're booking the valuation or whatever you call it in your business. Hi, can I arrange a valuation? It doesn't really. That's not our ideal property. We've started seeing this quite a lot recently. That's not our ideal property. It's not our ideal client. But oh no, sorry, it's not for us. Go elsewhere. That's a hard call to make, I think, as an agent. So I think saying no to valuations or instructions on the wrong term, and also saying no to viewings, and that's probably what I've seen within Moving Works at the moment. We're doing a lot of viewings that maybe we should be organising a little bit better. And I think you're right, it's FOMO. What if that's the person that wants to buy that house? And I could sell that house this afternoon and people get excited because, they think it could be something on the horizon. But ultimately, if somebody's going to buy a house, then they'll fit within your diary to see it.
mhm.
As long as you've got enough options for them and you're willing to be a little bit flexible, they'll fit within it. And everyone knows this. Those people that demand to see it then or can only see it at a really awkward time, they inevitably will be the ones who said they're proceedable when they're not, or they're not really serious buyers, or even worse, they just won't turn up because they're valuing their time more importantly than your time. And I don't think it's a me as being more important than you, but actually it's got to come on a level playing field. And if I give you four options and you can't make any of them, then, well, how serious are you about this? Depending on your circumstance, you might be flying in for a day or whatever, but it's fairly unlikely in the area that we operate in. So why is your availability limited and why am I going to break my back to, you know, show you a property on your terms when actually, experience has told me that if we do that, then you're probably not really going to be
Uh,
a serious buyer.
And I found the difference of being in a uh, decent sized traditional agency with 10 branches to working with self-employed estate agents is they are very different with their time in that situation. They're very strict with their listings. After their first year, they're quite strict with their listings. They're quite strict with waiting lists as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the really strong ones are. And then with the viewing element of things, people just don't buckle on that in the self-employed game because it's if you've got the space and you think it's worthwhile doing, they'll do it. But if you haven't got the space, they don't really move heaven and earth for it because they're like,
Mm.
well, no, because the time is the value for the self-employed agent. And the same in any industry when you're kind of operating on your own. If it's the florist, for example, well, there's only one person, one element at a time. So that florist has to pick what they can actually do and create and the count that they can work with. So they're quite systematic in who that is. They can't just do drop of a hat.
Mm.
So I think that's something that I've seen quite a lot is when you've got um, sort of layers and hierarchies of departments, the more junior agents are quite weak to say no to a viewing because they're under pressure to book a viewing target that day. So they want to get it in and then they fill the diary with 40% of stuff that they shouldn't have filled it with, but they feel good about their targets. But then they get in their one-to-one and they've got a really weak viewing
Yeah.
to offer ratio. And it's kind of this cycle of what's the right thing to do. It's really hard, I think, for agents. But I think the more experienced the agent, the more mature the agent, the more in control of their diary and the situation, the more efficient they are,
Yeah.
then ultimately the better for everyone, really. Everyone's time doesn't get wasted. So, um, yeah, it's difficult though. I've found this, we worked with an action coach for a period of time, and the action coach, kind of sort of talks me through what he called default diary. And I kind of ran through all of the stuff that I was going through on an average week. And then effectively the default diary is to say, right, well, 40% of your 30 to 40% of your diary each week should be kind of habitual things that get put in. And that's your default diary. And then your appointments go on the 60% or the 65% above that. And normally operating from that basis, unlike a freak week like this week, it does help. But you
Mm.
do sometimes run out of diary space really quickly. And then it's where you have to balance your priorities, which is equally hard.
Yeah, and I think that Foxtons did it really well. I don't know if they still do, but you hear the stories of them running their diary very, very efficiently from junior member to senior member, and that's having the discipline to be able to say no. That's not saying no. It's saying we've got this or this, and actually you being proactive in letting the client know your availability rather than you accepting their availability. So, like your default diary, we have our what we call our high performance week, where we have certain elements of the job diarized, recurring every week, which is like prospecting, working on the business, and then we have space in that for appointments as well. It just means that I know that I'll be in the office at important points of the day and at the start. And I know your default diary, you like to be in office to start the week and finish the week. I'm right in thinking because we've spoken about this before. Is that right?
I don't have any appointments in the morning on a Monday and the
Yeah,
afternoon after 1:30 on a Friday. Typically speaking, by rule of thumb, I'll try and make sure that I'm clear Monday morning and I'm clear Friday afternoon.
yeah,
And then I can, like the day before on a Friday, if I need to, and I've got that space, I can book it in if I feel it's urgent. Like if it's a call with a new agent or an existing agent's got an issue that only I can fix, I can use that time. So it's not like I'd never speak to anyone in that time,
yeah,
but it's there as a backup that's like an
yeah,
emergency time. And Monday is about setup. I work from home now on a Monday up until 2 o'clock, sometimes the whole day. And that actually works really nicely for me because it means I can sort of help with the kids Monday, bang, that sorted, get a load of the stuff done that I want to do in the morning. I see my running PT at 12 o'clock. So at lunchtime, I get to sort of go and do my own kind of bit and do PT and stuff like that. Come home, and then I'm either working from home in the afternoon or into the office for podcasts and whatever it may be. So that starts my day, starts my week, I should say, really, really nicely now. And that's a New Year thing that kind of works really well.
yeah. Ours is, we're very strict on no appointments Monday mornings. If any agent is doing appointments Monday mornings, I will really challenge that as a bad way to start the week. Because the other thing is, you talk about eat the frog and what have you. When you're starting your week, to be able to start getting stuff done like that on a Monday, and it might be team meetings where you might not think they're the most productive, but you're generating sales out of that, and then you're returning all the calls from viewings or offers over the weekend. So I think Monday morning is a real staple that should be in everyone's diary. I personally like Friday as a sales day. I like being out of the office, and I think I've always got this really, probably bizarre view that people like to buy on a Friday. People like I like prospecting on a Friday as well because I think people are just in a better mood. But I don't know why. That's just what I've always done on a Friday. So I like Friday as a bit of a sales time. But we have time in the diary, and like you said, there is a potential to move that. But my team know if they're putting an appointment in the diary that conflicts with my high performance week, they've got to talk to me about it. And it's not just a carte blanche booking whenever you want. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen all the time. I have to bring them back on side with it a little bit sometimes. But I think having that diary structure allows you to be more efficient and get more done. And probably within that, also be able to siphon out some of those buyers or sellers that aren't good for you in your business. It's hard and it's something that people will need to learn, but it's definitely something that agents should be doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think the good ones are. I think most agents are. I think where I think they do that, but where I think they're weak is the commitment to it. I think
Mm.
that's where sometimes people struggle is, I don't know what it was like when you started agency, but when my first managerial role, we had this like massive 2-page paper diary, it was like a Bible, like massive, right? And by about this time of the year, it started to fall apart where it'd been thrown across the office where people booking appointments. But one of the things as the branch manager was on the Wednesday was to grab the big office diary, and then we kind of ruled it out with like a ruler and highlighters the next week's like stuff. So, you'd have your 2 till 4 call outs go in there. You'd have your Val Gem booked in on a Tuesday morning. You'd have your Friday afternoon meet that was ruled out. So it was literally like you couldn't write into this
Mm.
diary. Um, and that was probably the most ordered it had ever been because it wasn't digital. So you
Yeah.
couldn't delete an appointment. Like it was in the diary. I wrote it in. You're not writing over it. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen. That was like they say the good old days. You feel old, but that was when the diary was probably as slick as I ever remember it. Was sort of double page, big fat diary, ruled
Yeah.
out properly, and then it was stuck to. But I think now it's very easy to digitally like move a few
Yes, it
things
is.
around. And my other thing with the diary, with the habits that I've got in there, is move it, don't lose it. That's kind of
Mm.
the phrase. If it's in there, it's in there for a reason. So don't delete it. Just move it if it has to be
Yeah.
moved. Like with our podcast, there's no way we weren't getting the podcast out today, but
Yeah.
we were really struggling with time
Yeah.
of when we were going to get this episode done. But we moved it, we didn't lose it. That was ultimately the way that we work. And I think sometimes people don't move it, they do lose it, and that's where you get on the back foot for your month then.
Yeah, like depending what is in that diary, if you've got your vendor contact in there for that, that is something that you can't just, because we've all been in the office where some bomb's gone off and you have to divert your attention to do that. So I think that move it, don't lose it is a really good way of looking at it. And then the other thing is also not to beat yourself up if you don't hit whatever diary structure that you've got. I always took this the high performance week from Royston and obviously Perry's a client of Royston's or colleague of Royston's now, I should probably say. But he always said, the 80/20 rule, if you're hitting your high performance week or in your case, your default diary 80% of the time, then it's massively successful. There is always going to be the 20% where you can't be as structured as you want because we don't work in a massively structured industry. Stuff can happen and that is outside of our control and it needs our attention. And I think sometimes I've been through the process where I've been like, "Oh, I've not done that today," and then I feel like I've not been productive, but I've saved a sale instead. So I think that's an important point for agents listening to know as well. Don't beat yourself up if you can't hit it all the time, because realistically in our industry you're just not going
No one's perfect, right? Like we found this week, it's kind of like chasing tail a little bit this week. No one's perfect. You're going to have those weeks. It's no coincidence that, we had half term. I was away for a couple of days. You come back and then, you've lost 3 days. So you're like, oh,
to.
no, where am I going to get that time? So then the next week's squeezed and then the next week's, sort of carnage. I think the other thing that's important, we talk about um, all round kind of life balance rather than
Mm.
work life balance, and also looking after yourself with your diary. I'm a big fan of just having one diary for everything. I don't like to have like multiple diaries,
Yeah.
but I think it's also important that in that default diary you have your own stuff that you put in as well, and that might be, if you're an employed agent listening, I know that you can't at 10:30 put on a Tuesday you're going to go to the gym, for example. But what you can do is you can put in your 10:30 on a Tuesday after sales chasing time to get your pipeline through, which is for you because it's your commission. You want to get that in and it's
Yeah.
work related and it benefits the business as well. Or you can put in that you're going to do your video update on a Thursday straight after lunch, for example. So, and if you're a self-employed agent or you're the business owner, you can obviously put in effectively whatever the hell you want. So it's just trying to be in a position as well that the diary works for you positively. Like you said, everyone's happier on a Friday. They are, people are just happier on a
Mm.
Friday. And what are you going to do on a Friday that's going to keep that buzz going, But then after sales and solicitors are impossible to speak to
Yeah,
on Fridays. So,
waste
you're
of
not
time.
going to get hold of a mortgage advisor. Most solicitors by 2:30 are playing golf. So, like, you've got a kind of balance where your sort of structure goes into your diary as well. Um, but yeah, I think also remember, put appointments in for you as well. That's really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. One diary for everything, and I ended up in a situation this week where I'd accidentally put stuff in the wrong diary. So we use Google Diary, and I've got a couple of different accounts, and I signed into the wrong one, and it was really irritating because I was like, "Where are all these appointments that I put in my diary over the weekend, and I can't find them in my work diary?" And I'm like, "What is going on here?" So I figured that out. So I've actually had a bit of pain with that this week. But I also agree that that personal stuff, if it is going to the gym or going out for a meal or whatever you do in your time, I think putting that in the diary, that might have to be, if you're an employed agent, might have to be a different work diary. It depends on your diary system at work, I would guess. Some people will be like, I don't want to share what I'm doing. But actually the importance of putting it in the diary is exactly the same for you as you get that balance, because whatever is important outside of work, it's important that that goes in the diary so that you hit a structure, you hit that disciplined week, because those gym sessions, socializing with friends, whatever that might be that helps you relax will ultimately help you perform better at work. And if you're just moving it or ignoring it or not even noting it down anyway, it's not going to happen, or it's much less likely to happen. I think that's a really important point of, whatever is important to you, design your life around it. And it might be that you work 9 till 5 or 9 till 7, but why not put in a gym session at 7 a.m. or a meal at 7:30 at night, whatever that might be, get it in the diary, because actually that will help you. You said work-life balance in general, it will help you with that balance. Get it in the diary and stick to it.
I think when it's there in front of you, it's so much easier. It's a bit like with a personal training plan. If you know what sessions you're doing in the week, you just get up at the time and you go and do them. If you're kind of just working off key a little bit and you're like, right, I'll go to the gym twice next week, but I don't really know when. You get to Sunday and you're like, oh, I went to the gym once and I didn't
Yeah.
really have a great session because I didn't really know what I was doing. Um, as I said, I've got an event coming up in a month's time. So February for me was like what's called like the engine building time. I've got probably 2 more weeks of training and then I'm sort of in the thick of it basically. So really what I do over the next 10 days can shape that race. But what I did over the last 4 weeks massively did. And the only way I could properly get my weeks done was on a Sunday, schedule out my training plan for each day, look at my work diary or my diary and put them in and just put them in as no appointment time. And I had to balance what I was doing. And then I got to the end of February and I was like really struggling with the last couple of runs. But then I was able to reflect on that and go, oh, it's because of fueling. I've been overrunning and I'm really depleted on calories. I need to increase the fuel. So if I hadn't had that order of diary planning, I wouldn't have done the miles and I wouldn't have worked out that I was in
Mm.
that deficit. So now I'm way more fueled up and I'll have a really strong kind of start in 2 weeks to March. So it's the diary planning in anything that we talk about, not just agency. It really does dictate the kind of the order and the good habits.
And that stuff went in the diary and you executed on it because it's important to you. And I know from your social media that meant some really early get-ups at the weekend and
Mm.
some sacrifices. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. You say about getting the personal training plan or getting the gym session in the diary twice a week, whatever it might be. Once it's in the diary, it's another or it's a one less obstacle to overcome, because the gym I go to has a class on and I like going to it because you can turn up, you don't have to think about it, you just go through, you know you're gonna have a tough workout, but you don't have to think. And if that is a gym that you go to and it's in the diary, then you just go through and it becomes habit. If you've not got those good habits, I think putting them in the diary is probably a good way to try and establish some of them. But yeah, I think, did I see 4:46 get up Sunday a couple of weeks ago for you? It was something daft.
Yeah, because I had a 100-mile week to run that particular week.
Just
And that
100 miles.
100 miles that week. That was the plan. And the only way I had the time to structure that and I kind of was doing the Chester 100 race. So I was doing the time different times throughout the week, and the only way I could do the end on the Sunday, because I had the kids all day Saturday, was to do a 50k run on the Sunday. But the only way I could get 50k in, which is like 4.5, 5 hours for me, was to do it so early that I was back in time for what I needed to do for the rest. But then that was great because what I actually did is I went, oh, well, I do need to practice head torch running and I do need to practice running tired. And it was the end of the week. So I'd already done 70 miles. So then psychologically, I was like, this is great. I've got
Mm.
a long run in the dark on my own on tired legs. If I get up at 4 o'clock and do it, then for the win. And I was out the door at 4:32 or whatever. Um, didn't see anyone or a car for like 90 minutes. It's just I don't know if you've done it. It's something weird about running when no one's around. Any little shadow, any little gust of wind, any weird noise, you shit yourself. It's like, oh my God, it's the scariest thing in the world. But back on the point, the diary made me do it. If I hadn't had it in the diary, it wouldn't have been done. And it was a really important week for getting it done. And ticking those boxes was a big part of that week, basically. So yeah, it's vital.
Yeah, and that is incredible discipline because it's something that you're very passionate about and you're a very disciplined person. But actually, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about from a work environment, that's a really extreme example of something that you want to do outside of work. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about in work takes much less discipline because, undoubtedly you've got to do it because you need to earn money or you need to earn a salary or whatever your setup is. But actually, the discipline that you can learn from doing things like that outside of work will help you say no, taking us right back to the early point that we made. It'll help you get better at saying no to bad business. And actually, if you can practice those disciplines outside of work, it will inevitably help within work.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little tip, a little nice way that going back to that double diary page, the big old Bible, the paper-based one that we had probably back in 2003 to probably about 2008, something like that. The way that my head worked as the office manager with that diary is a bit like a sort of rainbow process to it, with different color. I looked at you've got business gen, then you've got take-ons and valuations, and then you've got viewings, and then you've got like offer negotiation and office based, getting the files off desk and getting everything in from that point of view. Then you got after sales, and it was almost like those rainbow of colors dictated how the week went as well. It
Yeah,
was kind of
yeah,
there's a little bit of systematic to business gen to after sales and a bit of an order of play ultimately to the point where Saturday was like the start of the week and Saturday was just get viewings, as you were hunting, it was you're out there hunting for offers, and
yeah.
then it all started again. And if you can get that visual in your head of how your diary works, it's a lot easier to fill the gaps, I find.
Yeah, my diary is color coded exactly like that. So I just minimized the screen then because I've got it saved on my desktop. So did it in an Excel sheet, saved on my desktop, so it's there. So it's color coded. So yellow for appointments. Um, what else is it? I'm gonna have to have a quick look now because I can't see. Orange for prospecting, or green for other prospecting. Blue for working on the business. And I think that's a really good way of doing it because once it's visual, it's more you're much more likely to stick to it. But you're right. If you get those certain elements right, and you'll know the building blocks, and you probably know some of the ones that you can move rather than lose as well, some that won't affect the business as much as if you get rid of your prospecting, you might be all right to do that for 1 week. You do that every week for 6 months, you're going to come a cropper.
Yeah.
So I think color coding it in a way makes it much easier to follow as well.
Also, we're quite organised for the next couple of weeks. We've got a great guest on next week. Self-employed agent, big on the marketing game, really good, likable guy, good face in the industry. The following week, you might have seen it go in your Outlook, but I've just booked a brand expert. So they've got a
Yes.
marketing agency. They have done the avocado branding and the Mortgage Tribe branding, Survey Network branding for us. But I thought it'd be really good to get a branding expert on.
Mm.
So we've got Louis coming on from Unearthed to, he might not have the question down on lock of what does world class real estate look like to you. Maybe we'll ask what real world class branding looks like to him. But if anyone's got any questions about branding, or they want us
Mm.
to kind of do like a DIY on theirs or something like that, that would be really cool. And I've got another agent that's only deals in 1.2 million pound plus stuff. He started his business about 18 months ago. He passes the local avocado partners his small change, and the other day he referred a 875 house to us. So I
Nice.
got him coming on because he's been really ordered on the power of saying no as well. So we've got some great guests coming on. So we don't just do these knee jerk. Sometimes we are planning.
Yeah, we've got some exciting plans which we're going to be talking about as well in the next few weeks, and we're going to be getting together face to face to have some more podcasts as well. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to taking things to the next level. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it improve and get better. If you have enjoyed today's, please show. Dear me. If you have enjoyed today's show, please reach out on socials, share this with colleagues. I'm Mark Worrall. He's Ian Macbeth. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.